In this video, I will be talking about the work culture in Dubai. If you've never seen a video on my channel, I'm a ex-Dubai expat. I lived there for a couple of years as well as worked there. So in this video, I'll be sharing my experiences, my observations to help you make an informed decision. Let's start off with the diversity. So I worked for a local company, and naturally I worked with a bunch of local Emirati males and females. Additionally, I worked with a lot of people from India, also from Europe, places like Greece, Spain, Portugal, Ireland, the UK, Oceania, so Australia, New Zealand, and all over the place. There weren't really many Americans there. I think I was one of two. And then there's another Emirati guy who spent over a decade living in the U.S. I think it was Indiana, he told me. So in terms of the people, I formed some great friendships and work connections while working there with the people that were in my division. So even to this day, I still talk to some of those people. I didn't really have, wasn't really a toxic environment. You know, I've read that some people in UAE, you know, they have either bad management or they're just in a super toxic environment. Fortunately for me, that wasn't my experience. Besides being in a role that was pretty stressful due to the nature of what we were working on. And part of that was assisting with the kickoff of Expo 2020. So we spent a couple of years preparing for that. And then also we had projects going on during Expo 2020. The work week and work hours, and also teleworking. So I arrived in the UAE and started the job March 6, 2020. So this was a kickoff of the pandemic. So I didn't really, so other than showing up the first day and then waiting in the lobby to meet my manager, I didn't see the office again until June 2020. No, sorry, June 2020. At the time, the work week was from Sunday to Thursday, but later on, it was changed from Monday to Friday, and then from Monday to Thursday because Friday is the Islamic religious day. So we were basically given the day off or half a day on Fridays. So that's not applicable to all companies there. So if you're working for a multinational company, let's say you work for Google in Dubai, that may not apply to you. You'd probably still be going to work on a Friday. But if you work for a company like Do, then that could very well apply to you. In terms of work hours, I think the expectation in Dubai, depending on where you work, is between 40 to 48 hours per week. And of course, again, depending on what you do, that could be more. I know that in the retail industry, people tend to work 6 days a week. And as I mentioned earlier, other industries, they may work 4 days or they may work 5 days. It all depends. Again, it all depends on what you do. If you work in retail or you're a teacher or you're medical staff, you probably have a shift that you have to be there at a certain time. In my office, it was pretty lax. So, you know, some people showing up at 6, 7 a.m., other people showing up at 11. The main thing was that you got your stuff done. That was the main thing. But that doesn't always, apply to everyone. So like if you're in, sales, you might be hustling like 12 hours a day, trying to get those sales and earn that commission. In terms of work-life balance, I found myself working a lot. I was getting messages on the weekend. I was getting messages late at night. My boss would be writing me at 11 p.m. and I'd be checking up on stuff. But overall, I had a decent balance. sometimes I'd be so tired, that I wasn't interested in, going out and doing all the fun stuff that there is in Dubai, just because, work would wear me out, and I just want to, kick back in my apartment and just chill for a bit. Dubai, just because there's something going on, there's so much stimulation, it could be overwhelming, and mentally and physically, on top of work. So if you went there and you want to work there because of the lifestyle, you got to take that into consideration. What is it actually going to be like to be there day in and day out? One thing that I didn't like working there in terms of work-life balance, and hopefully this has changed, is that when I would take leave, first and foremost, my company gave me 30 days of leave. But when I would take leave, let's say I wanted to go home for 2 weeks, 4 of those days which Saturday and Sunday, would be counted against me. Or, even when the work week was different from Sunday to Thursday. So Friday and Saturday, I'm normally off. If I took leave, I had to take leave on those days as well. But hopefully that has changed. Another thing to keep in mind is that you need to be kind and courteous to everyone. It's not tolerated for you to curse at people. If you have a dispute with someone, stay calm. Don't raise your voice. Don't curse at them. None of that. You will find yourself in some kind of trouble. No matter what the situation is, stay calm. Remember that you're not at home. So you got to play by the rules, or else you find yourself in the situation that you don't want to be in. In terms of, again, back to the topic of, how you talk to people. I didn't really hear anyone talk crazy in the workplace, but just being out and about in Dubai, I did hear people who would talk to people in sometimes, disrespectful tones, or they talk down to people. In terms of dress code, so for my company, it was business casual, but you'd see people wear suits and ties. It was acceptable to wear jeans and t-shirt. Of course, nothing that was ridiculous. It had to be classy. The locals, they wore the men wore their kandoras, and then the females, they wore their abayas. I think that's what you call it in Emirati Arabic, abaya. But yeah, for sure, the male is the kandora. And I tell you, when it got hot during the summer months, I was thinking about wearing a kandora to work. But the only thing, it was during the summer months, it was super hot outside. If I look at the temperature, it would say 150 degrees Fahrenheit. It feels like 150 degrees Fahrenheit with the humidity, but really about 110. But in the office, the AC would be blasting. I mean, blasting. It's 100. It feels like 150 degrees outside, but indoors, I'm wearing a jacket and a hat or a hoodie to stay warm. What was it like working with locals? Again, great group of people. I made some friends in the workplace. People put this mystique on locals in the UAE, and it tends to be that people gravitate towards their groups. So you'll find a bunch of British people hang out together, or a bunch of Indian people hanging out together, even in the workplace. So as an American, and with no other Americans there, I didn't really have this kind of group in the workplace. So although I wasn't hanging out outside of work with my Emirati colleagues, we would sometimes sit down and eat together and talk and joke and stuff like that. So good people. I enjoyed working with them. Again, I mentioned earlier, one of the local guys, he had lived in Indiana for around 10 years. So he always spoke fondly, about the U.S. and his desire to go back there, and how he had family who still lives there to this day. Culturally, Emirati men, if they're a parent, if they're like a father, so let's say there's a guy named Mohammed and he has a son named Khalid. So the way they will address each other is, like, for example, someone's addressing Muhammad, they're not going to call him Muhammad. Usually they'll call him Abu Khalid, which means father of Khalid, and that's a custom. Sometimes locals get a bad rap for not being diligent in their work, and people are afraid to hire them, but that definitely was not my experience. Again, all the people that I worked with there, they were pretty bright. They worked hard and they got things done. So I've heard people complain that their salaries are too high for what they do, but regardless of nationality, there's just people who are good and they work hard, and there's people who aren't diligent in their work. Let's talk about some of the challenges. So Dubai is a pretty competitive place. My experience was a little bit different because I wasn't necessarily looking for a job in Dubai. I got contacted by a recruiter. It wasn't until I got there that I realized how competitive it could be, and also how persistent people can be, looking for a job, because they put themselves in that position where they're kind of desperate for a job. And I know that in some people's countries it's kind of hard, and that may be the only option that they have. Try and go to Dubai and get a job. And to that point, I met this guy in passing in a Carrefour, which is a supermarket in Dubai, and we just happened to be talking. And so he wanted to connect with me in LinkedIn. And I say this guy wrote me every day to see if I could do something for him. He wrote me every day. And it got to the point where, I wanted to be kind, but I also wanted to block him because he didn't do anything related to what I did. I didn't know anyone who did what he did. And it seemed to be not getting through that I couldn't help him at all. And I also felt bad. I don't know his complete situation, but also to that point, you find people who will sell themselves short. And the company I work for, my team and I, we were working on a project, and we required some information from the HR, and they accidentally leaked the specific pay for different employees. And I could see the disparity. Like, there's people who were in the same role, and you had one guy making 7,000 dirhams for the month, and another guy making 35,000 dirhams for the month. Same qualifications and everything. I just don't think that's right. Depending on your passport, your pay will vary. But when I saw this leak, I saw people with, for example, passports from India, and they were on the higher end, getting well above, 35,000, 40,000 dirhams. There's guys, again, with the same passport, who are getting, 7,000 dirhams. So also it depends on what you're willing to accept and how you market yourself and how you negotiate. For most nationalities, excluding Americans, working in Dubai is tax-free. So that's one of the biggest benefits for people to work there. It's no longer a hardship to work there, so you're probably not going to get the big packages that people in the past used to get like 15, 20 years ago, when there wasn't much there in the company. The country was still building. So the main benefit people get from going there, they're saving on taxes, and also the lifestyle. So again, if you're American, you're still going to have to report your taxes. If you think you're going to somehow evade that, it's not possible, because there's a agreement between the U.S. and UAE to share financial information. So whatever bank that you deal with, they're going to ask your passport. And so if they see that you're American, they're going to file something called a F-bar, F-B-A-R. I forgot what it means, but you can Google it, an F-bar, and they're going to send that back to the U.S. So the U.S. will then know how much you're making in the UAE. And so in terms of tax benefits as an American, the first $112,000 you earn is deductible. Everything above $112,000 is taxed. So again, back to it being a competitive market and my experiences in the tech industry. Because there's people who are going there and selling themselves short, willing to work for 4,000, 5,000, 7,000 dirhams. It kind of impacts the whole industry. So, whereas let's say you have a rare skill, like you're skilled in generative AI and you've worked on projects, you're probably not going. I mean, you're going to get a decent amount of money, but you probably wouldn't get what you would get if you were working for one of the more progressive companies in the U.S. Hey, so thanks for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I hope that this video was helpful for you. If you have any feedback, go ahead and leave it. I'd love to also hear about your experiences working in the UAE, if you've worked there. If you have any questions about the place, feel free to contact me, and I'll do my best to provide you the best information and the most accurate information that I can, or perhaps even direct you to someone who might be able to help you out if that's possible. Thank you.